Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on.
The Saudi connection that we've continued to talk about. Uh, it was a leaked deal, and actually, do I even have that screenshot? I touched on this like 3 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, it leaked back then, so
Mhm.
we knew that was the case.
As it says here, now the terms of this, and I repeat this every video just for clarity because people are somehow they're trying to be confused what this means with the Saudis, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi being a part of this. According to the leaked deal, that scenario was each of them, of course, they would put in about 8 billion apiece, billion with a B, Arab money. And then each of the three would get an IP. That's what it says right here. They would get an IP, a movie premiere, and a movie shoot. That's the terms of their deal. So they're going to have, and as it says here, they're concerned with soft power influence. They're trying to do more global business, Jules, right? And that's really what this is about. It happens more than people probably realize. So the Saudis, they bought EA, Electronic Arts. They own an American business, and they do WWE events over there. Different events coming. So this is just them flexing some more. And what stood out to me with this, Jules, again, is they can get an IP, meaning they can use.
Yeah, the interesting thing is each of the three. So you have an IP for Saudi Arabia, another IP for Qatar, another one for Abu Dhabi. So what three IPs are they all going to be vying for? And that's the interesting part. We kind of have an idea of what Saudis like.
I have an idea. I had to have a fleeting idea what the Saudis would do.
I mean, somebody might want Transformers, another one might want Harry Potter. Whatever. There's a bunch of IPs to choose from.
Yeah. So that's why the hype is there. Not just purely, they know Zack Snyder. That's big enough, I think, that they're doing the Brawler film. Zack is actually cool with this dude, Turkey Al-Sheikh. But then also too, they are minority stake owners in Warner Brothers, which owns DC, and per terms of their deal, they can use an IP. So I mean, I don't know how else can I add this up for people?
Right.
This is why we're excited about their involvement.
If you put the puzzle pieces together, it kind of makes a pretty clear picture. You might still have a couple puzzle pieces missing. It's not full, but it's kind of obvious.
That's why the hype is there. Now, again, and a few things I want to say, like, are we 100% guaranteeing? No, but our chances are really good with this scenario for as far as Snyderverse. That's what we're talking about. Is something already signed? Did I hear anything personally? No, I have not heard that they are already ready to go with the Snyderverse. But
they physically can't sign anything in an agreement because they don't own anything. But again, like I mentioned earlier, there could be a handshake deal that's happened. Sure. They're going to hit the ground running on this, whatever they decide.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, of course, like, unofficial talks parties has happened, for several things here. So not surprised by that. But I just know our chances are better with all that lined up there compared to if Netflix would have got this. And again, we're talking about Zack Snyder directly. What's the next Zack Snyder project on Netflix, Jules? Have we heard about anything?
Last time I checked, there was nothing.
Okay. My point exactly, because if it's about Zack, and if they already if they already have announced, like, Zack's about to do the LA SWAT film with Netflix, I'm like, let's go. Like, Netflix, let's get DC, let's get the Snyderverse back over there on Netflix, right? But last we heard, they didn't want to do any Zack Snyder projects.
All the Zack Snyder supporters at Netflix are gone. And once that person departed, we saw the switch up on Snyder and his projects. Regardless if his projects did well, which they did, they got a lot of engagement, which apparently that's all Netflix cares about. They weren't happy enough, and they just aren't bringing him back for projects. They already declined a lot of his projects with their first look deal, and he had to go shop it elsewhere.
Exactly. Like, they turned down, like, Zack Snyder has a first look, Stone Quarry has a first look deal with Netflix. And they basically say, we don't want to pay you the proper money to do LA SWAT, and we don't want your last photograph film. That's crazy. Like,
and then we're all like low budget.
Right, but that's the perfect place for Zack Snyder. I'm sorry, like
Yeah.
this is nonsense.
I mean, he made 300 on like a minuscule budget, and it became a worldwide sensation. Like this guy knows how to work with budgets.
When we're talking, like you said, with Netflix, is about engagement. Zack Snyder brings eyes to the lovers of Zack, the haters of Zack. You're going to get engagement with Zack Snyder, and Netflix turned it down. So
it's fine because they also got turned down by the WBD shareholders. So
so, all the shots for Netflix. But and again, if they were treating Zack right, this would be a totally different conversation.
Absolutely,
they just haven't. And those Netflix influencers, like, I'm sorry, I don't know how you can argue something's coming up for Zack when we haven't heard nothing in a couple years, right? So that's one thing. And then I want to make another statement clear here is that, and I'll speak for myself, but I'm just going to kind of act like I'm speaking for Jules. But we are not saying like we're pledging allegiance to Paramount. It is the fact that this is the best scenario again to restore the Snyderverse. Now, there's going to be some other advantages. Like I'm going to love to see if they get 30 films out in 1 year. Right, that's going to be great for theaters. Right, but if Paramount messes up, like if they all of a sudden ghost Zack Snyder for some reason, then they're gonna get the same smoke that we're giving to Netflix right now.
Yep, absolutely.
So
we're right down the middle. We're not gonna be touting tooting any horns or raising anybody's flags. Like everybody can get the smoke. Like it don't matter.
So we're just making it clear, like we're not out here being Paramount influencers or even Saudi influencers. They got to follow through too. Everyone has to play their part, or they're gonna get capped too. So overall, just right now, Netflix is getting the smoke because they just, it's like, come on now, like y'all had Zack in the building and y'all fumbled that.
Yeah, you let him go.
So that is what it is. And like I said, the Saudis' influence is there. And so that's been established. Why are we so hype about that? Because y'all saw the terms of the deal. So, so now we're waiting for the deal to close and be official, and that's going to be very interesting. Now, a part of that earnings call, Jewel, I'm dying to get your take on this. A part of the Paramount earnings call, David Ellison was going through, the rigmarole, blah 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 numbers from last year, and we're looking forward to this merger with Warner Brothers, expectations. And then he shouted out successful projects from 2025. Warner Brothers had a record-breaking year, right? $4.4 billion in theater gross worldwide. And Ellison here is talking about what he credited for that. So let me pull that up real quick, because according to what he's saying here, Gunn fans are saying this is guaranteeing that James Gunn is going to stay, Jules, actually. So let's play this for you. It's real quick.
Warner Brothers Pictures delivered a powerhouse slate last year with Superman, Minecraft, and Sinners, propelling the studio past $4 billion in box office.
So that was pretty brief, but according to this clip, people are claiming that David Ellison only praised Superman.
Yeah, I mean, people are grasping at straws. We know that they're desperate for something to hold on to. So we really can't be too rough on them a little bit. But who cares? We're going to be. They're stupid. Whatever. You can't pay them any mind. Like, clearly, Ellison was just naming the biggest IPs of 2025, right? Doesn't mean that they were great successes. Ted Sarandos told us pretty black and white that Superman was underwhelming, and they took it out of the theaters early due to that reason.
Now, that's not fair, Drew. That's not fair to bring up what Sarandos said. Again, this clip.
No, it's just another CEO in the industry doesn't know what he's talking about, I guess. he looked at the books, but, he's probably not that great at putting numbers together.
But to be fair, Minecraft, obviously, over 900 million. We don't even have to discuss what Sinners did. There was an anomaly. That's why
that was a whole phenomenon.
Yeah, I think like with Sinners, no one should compare anything. Like, well, Sinners did this, and just don't compare nothing to what that did. It made 46 million the first week and 44 the second week. Unheard of, where you don't even drop more than 90%.
Yeah, like plateau.
Don't stop comparing that. Yeah, don't stop. And so Minecraft again did this thing. Now, to be fair, of the 2025 Warner Brothers films, these are actually the top three. Superman actually did make the top three. For Warner Bros. Worldwide box office, $6 19, which they found some
They
money
found
under
like
the
$20
couch.
million all of a sudden,
That
almost
was
a year later. Okay.
So 624, top 3. And I really believe this is all that Ellison was doing, was just reading off. And I'll just kind of play it again real quick.
He is obviously
Warner
reading.
Brothers Pictures delivered a powerhouse slate last year with Superman, Minecraft, and Sinners, propelling the studio past $4 billion in box office.
Yeah. And so from that clip, though, Jules, people are saying this is giving confidence to James Gunn. What do you say to that?
He's just naming off the big IPs from 2025, their successes and whatever things, names that people know and recognize. That's all this is. Again, the end of the day, it's all about the IP and name recognition. And in 2025, these are their films that have the most name recognition. So of course he's going to name all 3 of them.
Yeah. I think this was actually a good form by David Ellison, where just let's hit the numbers. Hey, this made enough money. Did we expect Superman 2025 to do more? Well, Ted Sarandos told you that. They actually expected more. But it is what it is. It's in the top 3. I'm going to give it that credit. Now, I don't see that being some vote of confidence. I don't believe that.
Well, we already know, based on the whole contract situation, there's not much confidence there.
Yeah, for sure. And Dave Miller here, shout out to Dave Miller, says Bloomberg is reporting that Paramount's planning to keep Gunn and see how the current slate of films does. Now, I don't know if this is a new article, but I've been on the train, and we'll get to what Campia said, because I think it's ridiculous what Campia was saying.
Yeah.
I believe with James Gunn being in the last year of his contract, that it's a good chance they just don't re-sign him.
Yeah, I mean, look, run out. It's pretty clear, and this happens a lot in these types of situations. The obvious heavy hitters and the winners, they're going to get long-term contracts immediately, no questions asked. But those that, new ownership might have some questions or concerned about, they'll give them a minimal extension. That way, by the time the new owners come in, they can decide what to do with that contract, and it doesn't fall on the current owners. This happens all the time in all different types of projects in all kinds of different industries. So, yeah, I don't know. We're probably going to touch on this later, so I don't want to go back too much into it.
Yeah, but yeah, just in general, I think, you saw what happened with DeLuca and Abdi, where they were approaching their last year of their contract. Now, obviously, they came from a record-breaking year, right? That's one thing, but they were given a multi-year extension to go beyond this merger. I think DeLuca and Abdi are going to be there at least to 2028. And then, of course, on their merit, if they get re-signed before then, we'll see. We'll see what they do under the merger. Gunn and Safran, their original contract was up to October 2026. And they were given an extension of 6 months. That'll be April 2027. So that's why that seems a little shaky. You were able to extend DeLuca and Abdi beyond. You weren't able to do that for Gunn and Safran. That's why people are wondering if they're going to survive this merger. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. Fernando says, always making excuses against Gunn. How many hits besides 300 do Snyder have?
Literally all of Snyder's movies were hits. They all made a bunch of money. Like, I think the only ones was Guardians of Gahul, and that one wasn't even marketed that well. So, yeah. I mean, you gun shills really need to go online, do some research before you start spewing bullshit. Sorry, this is nonsense.
I think the main thing, and I want people, just like with the Saudis thing, I want to kind of restate what we're saying just to make it very clear. James Gunn got a 6-month extension. DeLuca and Abdi got a multi-year extension. That's why there's question marks of James Gunn being retained.
If they were confident in his ability to produce, then they would have given him also a multi-year contract, because clearly they believe in DeLuca and Abdi. The new owners, whoever that might be, will be fine with them getting multi-year extensions. But for some reason, Gunn did not get the same treatment. Why is that? They love him so much that they decided to not give him an extension. That doesn't quite add up.
And anytime I ask someone, because, on Twitter, people getting their feelings, when I'm like, hey, all I'm saying is the man's got a 6-month extension. I got a question. If he comes up and get an extension, then what can I say to that? Okay, you got an extension.
The writing is on the wall. This is a time to prove yourself. That's what this tells people. If you are a person who only got a 6-month extension, everybody else around you got multiple years.
You're like, dang.
It's time for you to show out or step out. That's it.
I'm just saying. So that's why the speculation is there. It's not to create something that's not there. We're just looking at his contract.
Right.
So now, as far as what we kind of already touched on as far as Paramount, we know the theater owners, they love that Paramount got this as opposed to Netflix. We got here Cinemark CEO glad Paramount won over Warner Brothers, and the reasoning is the relationship that Paramount has with theaters, or really the lack thereof, relationship that Netflix didn't have with theaters, and all of a sudden it's supposed to just become these theater people. The industry didn't trust it, and we covered that very extensively before the deal was even signed.
Yeah.
That this is why, again, people wanted Paramount.
All the filmmakers came out basically talking about it. The Actors Guild came out talking about it. They didn't want Netflix. They knew how dangerous that would be to the industry. So everyone is excited about this, except those that have their own biased takes.
Yeah. And so I think a lot that we was leaning on while we were still holding on to Paramount. If y'all saw the last couple of videos me and Jules did, like we was like, well, if Netflix gets it, but hopefully Paramount, because the Directors Guild was against Netflix, or at least questioning it. The Actors Guild, except Mark Ruffalo, was against it, and theater owners, theater exhibitors. So, and now that, again, Ellison, his first statement after the signing the deal was saying 15 films from Paramount a year, 15 from Warner Brothers. That both films did a combined 20 last year. So this is the confidence in theaters. This is what they wanted out of this Warner Brothers deal, with someone who will push more theatrical projects. So So that's that with that. Just want to make sure I covered it.
And that's also more jobs for theaters, more jobs for filmmakers, whatever, if they're a mic guy, whatever, a camera guy, people on set, more costume makers, whatever. Like, this is more jobs for everyone. This is more projects. So while they might be cutting corporate white collar jobs, on the actual field, there will be more jobs for people. So that's a plus.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, more productions, more jobs with that. Now right now, and that's it. I think I remain very consistent with all this, is that, again, while we're pushing for Paramount, there's obviously selfish reasons, but also to the theater experience, we do want to see someone saying more films in theaters and holding to a theatrical window. No funny stuff saying, oh, maybe it's 17 days. Maybe it's,
that's insane. Less than a month to go see a movie.
Crazy.
Right? We all have busy lives. Like, be for real.
So, but Ellison, he has to deliver, because again, we don't mind giving him smoke if he comes out and be like, I thought 15, maybe just 10 would do. Then it's like, bro, you were selling us a fake can of goods. If you pull
just
back
saying
on the
anything, he was just saying anything to get the deal through.
You sound like Netflix. They were saying anything. They would say, man, Sarandos is saying everything, bro. I was like, man, this dude, he's making this up as he goes. But theaters must survive. Another reason why I'm glad Netflix didn't win. And yeah, I mean,
simple concept.
Yeah, I have a couple reasons why I didn't want Netflix to win, but the main one was obviously the relationship with Zack Snyder. I mean, this channel, the core of my channel, we're Snyder fans, so we're going to look at that. But the theater experience is high up there as well, as far as why I'd rather Netflix not get this. So yeah.
Yep.
So that is what it is with that. Dave says, I don't think Campy is wrong. We'll touch on that. I know everyone's ready to talk about the Gunn stuff, but before we get to that, there's a scenario right now with Paramount, again, waiting for this to close, and we know that the synergies and the $6 billion, they want to have that down probably before it closes. You're going to start hearing some firings, actually, just according to what's being said, before this fall. They're going to just be like, okay, we're wiping out this division, or whatever happens with that. So just keep that in mind. There's been word that a lot of people under Warner Brothers, they felt more comfortable with Netflix because, again, less hands-on, right? And this is going to kind of lead us to James Gunn in just a moment. But according to what's being said, Netflix, Ted Sarandos, when they first signed, agreed to that first deal, the $82 billion or whatever, Sarandos went and visited the lot, right, Warner Brothers lot, and they were taking pictures.
How can we forget?
Selfies with Zack, holding hands, skipping on Warner Brothers lot.
Through the lot, yeah.
And then they met with, HBO execs. Everyone just felt so comfortable, like, oh, Netflix, they ain't gonna do nothing. They just gonna sign the checks and let us do our thing, right? That's what, the feeling. But with Paramount, like it's all flipped in just in a week. Like it was one weekend, me and Jules was talking about, oh, Netflix is going to get this. And then 48 or the 72 hours later, Paramount got the superior deal. And so it was whiplash for those in Warner Brothers and HBO. Now, people may think, okay, Ellison shouted out HBO, right? He said they're doing a great job, and I want HBO to remain HBO. Yes, that's consistent with what I was saying. The adjustment they wanted me to talk about the structures that Paramount, Ellison, he wants HBO to have that same structure. He wants it to, do the Penguin and things like that. He doesn't really want to absorb that away from them. They're going to be in the same app, but HBO is going to be HBO. Just like DC, he wants DC. Again, you go to the theaters, you want to see the Warner Brothers logo, DC, right? The structure doesn't mean all the execs are going to stay, right? Like that's the difference. So again, DC Studios is not going to be wiped out. HBO is not going to be wiped out.
No.
But the execs, that's going to be the question here. So just briefly in this article real quick, what happens to HBO? According to just this insider, they're saying Casey Bloys stormed out of the office when Paramount won. They said when the word came down that last Thursday that Netflix ended its pursuit, Casey Bloys walked out of the office and proclaimed it's over. Now, that's ambiguous what that's supposed to mean. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but they're saying that HBO, again, was more nicer to the execs. Now, people want to throw the whole Trump connection and stuff like that. I really don't want to get into that right now. But if you had a better offer or a better deal, Netflix should have matched it or did better. So don't blame Trump on that one. But what's your initial thoughts that, again, this is just according to what they're saying, is David Ellison has yet to reach to any people in HBO, Warner Brothers TV. All their contracts are coming up. Ellison told Analysis that he plans to give HBO autonomy even once it merges into Paramount Plus. But what he isn't committing to, Ellison, he's not committing to the execs he's giving autonomy to. like Casey Bloys' contract is up 2027. He may not be running HBO anymore now.
Yeah, similar to the whole Gunn contract situation. It's obviously structured to a point where like the new owners can come in and make those decisions. That way they're not locked into anything already that they probably don't want to pay for. Right. And again, just the whole synergy things. I'm sure there's executives at Paramount that might be able to take over HBO. But one thing that David Ellison has been consistent about are the brands, right? Warner Brothers, he wants to keep that. He's been talking about HBO. HBO is not going anywhere. That would be stupid to get rid of the HBO moniker. So HBO itself is safe. I'm sure they also want to keep intact what HBO is known for, which is high quality TV shows and productions. Good budgets, things like that. I'm sure that's still all going to be in play. This guy, Casey Bloys, he's been there, 10 years now. HBO was great before him, and it can be great after him. So
I'm just saying, because again, I want to be very accurate. What we're saying is that, we're not saying DC Studios is done. We're not saying HBO is going to be obliterated. But again, the execs in those positions, that's on David Ellison if he wants to extend someone before their last year of their contract. Like it's, once this deal closes, will he extend Casey Bloys? I don't know. I mean, he probably should, I don't know.
He might. Yeah. I mean, it all depends. They can't just act like it's the end of the world. You have to prove yourself like everyone else does.
Yeah. And as a quote here from one HBO staffer said, Ellison's statements, saying, shouting out HBO, they said it was encouraging, but basically meaningless, because we don't really have any concrete plans. We haven't heard anything. I feel like when Netflix thing happened, Casey was one of Ted Sarando's first calls. So take for that what you will, okay? with this situation. This is a different ship for what Zazev was running. And hey, like we continue to say, Jules, this is the business side of it. All right. We're here with a longtime contributor of the platform. We got CeeLo's Real Talk Productions, Inc. I already got the ink right there. Shout out to you. Viewers, y'all already used to Carlos being on the channel. But as I said before we started recording, that one of the biggest videos of summer of 2025 across my platforms was Carlos coming out of the theater of James Gunn's Superman and just his first thoughts on it. Now, Carlos, I want you to kind of just revisit that briefly, like just as DC fans, right? We want to see the stuff on the big screen as much as possible. So we got a big screen Superman fan, despite what people, it's mixed feelings, I guess, of James Gunn's Superman. And I voiced my own, but I want you to kind of revisit that briefly because that was a big moment, I feel, across my platforms. And then how does that film sitting with you now? About a year later, we got the DCU, we got Gunn's DCU. It's launched, and we're going now to what's coming. And you probably can mix in some Peacemaker stuff as well too. We saw Peacemaker season 2, but what was that like though? Just that premiere night, we finally got a new Superman film in theaters, right?
Yeah, and that I think you hit it on the nose there, man. Like, what was crazy about that? It's been about 10 years since we had actual Superman in the theaters, and everyone who knows me, like since I was a little kid, like Superman is my number one like superhero. Like, it could have been made by a Tubi, like I would have been first one in line to see it, and super excited. And when it comes to James Gunn, and shout out to Vega, I was on his show, The Chop Shop, and we talked about it. And for me, I mean, to this day now, like when I go back and I rewatch it, obviously to me, the number one Superman movie is always going to be Man of Steel.
Yeah. I don't think it's up there with the Donner.
Yeah, with Donner and all that. Yeah. Like to me, it was Donner because that's what I grew up, and then Man of Steel, and then like for me personally, just because of the time and like with this being like, again, 10 years since we've had Superman himself in the theater, I would put James like about that 3 to 4 level right there, And my thing is that I felt that this movie was very, this was a starting point. I feel like this wasn't so much of like what we're supposed to get from this film isn't till what we're gonna get till Man of Tomorrow. So I feel like this was just to set up the universe, and it was a good starting point. Now rewatching it, I've seen it about 3 times, and it's like I felt like there was a lot held back, but it was enough to open up the universe. That's to touch on that,
because I like how you put this, because we do got to put it in context of just what this film is, because I'm trying to put aside all the extreme comments, both sides of this. Like, I think, and people been kind of telling me recently that they saw my approach with this film is that, just I grew up a DC fan. I was more of a Batman guy, but I've really, because of Zack Snyder, I got more into Superman, right? So it was kind of just thanks to that depiction. So my approach to James Gunn's Superman was, let's just see what you got. Let's see what you got, and how does that fit into the lore? And he made a unique creative decision to just throw you into a world. And it was kind of like breaknecking speed for me. Like, I was just like, I'm trying to keep up with what Gunn was doing. But he was showing you this DC world is a fully fledged world already. It wasn't like Man of Steel, like, First Contact type of thing, right?
Yes.
So that's the difference, and that's how comics are. You get different runs, different versions. None of these versions that you see are exactly like one particular comic, and even comic versions not particularly the same as another run. You know what I'm saying? So I fully embrace that, and I like how you said that. It's just starting this world and kind of see where it goes. Right? That's what that film kind of represents.
Yeah, and to that point, like, I think another thing what I really liked about it is because since I was such a big fan of Henry Cavill and how he did Man of Steel, and like how on the nose, obviously, with everything that happened with Cavill, and that's a whole nother episode we could get on. It sucked what happened with him, but this this film and this direction being so different, I felt like when Cavill became Superman in his film, with the knowledge of who he was, and you had Russell Crowe, his dad there, Jor-El, actually guiding him with the codex and all that stuff. It was cool seeing this version of Superman that the world knows him as Superman, but him himself, he's still trying to figure out what it meant to be, what that word, that name Superman actually was, and not knowing exactly much of where he's from. The message was all distorted and broken. So he made a kind of a mission statement of his own of what he thought his parents, were talking about. And that's kind of how I took that story. So it was like how you mentioned how you had your different depictions when it came to the comic books. And that's, for me, I just felt like, I felt like a little kid. I felt like I just flipped over a page and it was something new. So
yeah, that's Gunn's version. This is his interpretation of what this Superman is. And just as a DC fan, I'm like, okay, again, I just want to kind of see what you got with this character. And I thought that was an interesting take to be like, I think it really emphasized, because by the end of the film, it was about Mom and Pa Kent is really what shaped this, version, and any version, right, of Kal-El. It's about the Kents. Now, did it slap down Jor-El a little bit or something like that? I mean, if you're saying this version of Jor-El, he's saying he's sending his son to conquer, right? Yeah. He wants the best for his son, though. So I didn't feel like it was like, oh, this is like evil. Okay, like me and you, we saw the Adventures of Superman. They had a similar version of Jor-El saying, "Go conquer," because we'll see what the world is about, but we just know you could thrive there. We want the best for you. So I didn't feel no malintentions or ruin Jor-El, because again, I want to cut out the extremes. There's people that's overglazing it, and there's people that's over hating it. Like I want to just stay in the pocket where we're pretty normal looking at this. This for me and you and several people. I did like that different take. I was like, that made this version of Gunn Superman like, oh, you're a little unique and interesting, right?
It's kind of crazy because, like, again, like rewatching it, I've seen it a couple times. It kind of gave Jor-El that, and this is gonna sound crazy, but that humanity kind of feel, because it's like, you got to think your world is crushing down around you. You're about to send your son to a world on his own that he doesn't know anybody. So me knowing my father, right? If he was to do that, he'd be like, look, man, you got to survive out there. You're the last of our kind. So it's like, again, that's not very true to to many depictions of Superman, but it's something of like, what would a father say at that moment? And that's kind of how I took it when I saw it.
And I feel we're only saying this now because we've had those different versions before, the Richard Donner version, or even just, let's go just to Man of Steel, just, Russell Crowe's like, basically, I want you to inspire everyone like that. And that's touching to the Donner a little bit, but it's like, we've had that version before, is my point.
Yeah.
Gunn and any other creator that comes in here next 10 years from now, they want to do their own version of these characters, right? They can do some Easter eggs and tie-ins here, but I think that's the point of these characters, is that you do your own version, and if it lands, it lands, right? And so just by saying that, with James Gunn, he made a creative choice, and I thought it went over for that story. I thought it went over pretty well.
It started the conversation to a villain that, as we see now, he's going to be in this new Man of Tomorrow. I mean, I wish we got more of a hype for it, but it was kind of just announced and kept rolling, which was Brainiac. I feel like that was, and then with us having also Supergirl, Brainiac is such a big tie into Supergirl. So not to say that anything was confirmed on that or anything, but he's such a big part of Supergirl's story that we've seen, even with the show you mentioned with the My Adventures of Superman. Brainiac, there was a kind of a message there where he kind of, the whole I believe it's Lois's dad in the show where you see all the ships come in and it's Brainiac trying to attack, but Lois's dad, General Lane, thinks that it's Superman and his people, and really it's freaking Brainiac, you know. So I'm not to say that that's something that's there, but it's something that it's a conversation now. It's like, okay, was that video, you know, really the thing? Like, is that it? Or was it Brainiac that messed up with the video and so on and so forth? You know, so I mean, I'm still holding out hope that that's what it is, just because, you know, it's playing on that lore of Superman. So
that'll be interesting if Gunn thought it out that far, where it's like, okay, we set the standard. Okay, this is what the Kryptonians probably really were. They just want you to come here and conquer. But again, the father's last advice, he just wants you to survive in this new world. But then what if, right? It was some Brainiac. So that's remains in like an open question with that. But just overall, like I said, with the film, as you said, is opening up the DC world. You got the Justice Gang. You got you know, the Clark and Lois, which that's one thing in the film. When I get a chance to rewatch it, the Clark and Lois is probably some of the best stuff we've seen. Yeah. I mean, ever, as far as just in our lifetime. I think that's probably some of the best stuff. Gunn can write those relationship stuff, these character relationships. I never take that credit away from him. He's a goofy dude. I'll always take a shot at him. But when he's putting that character stuff and character development, and that's some of the best stuff I thought he written was the Clark and Lois scenes.
Yeah, what was cool about that is that, you know, and I know you're a fan of Smallville as well. It's like you can tell he did, you know, his deep dive when it came to that relationship. And I think the best depiction of that relationship with Lois and Clark, and just Clark in general, with allowing himself to actually fall in love, is Smallville. And knowing that he's, like, you know, good friends with Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling and stuff like that. So you could tell he kind of like picked their brains a little bit and did his own type of research, because I kind of felt that same feel when I saw the film. And then also, you know, we had the animated series that I feel like to me is one of the top notches of Superman, you know, when it comes to Lois and Clark, because we got to really sit with that in that series. And, you know, everything is kind of branched off of that.
Or the old school Superman? Are you talking about the Adventures of Superman?
No, the old school Superman.
Yeah,
old school, yeah.
I'm with you with that. I've been starting to rewatch the old Superman animated series myself, and because again, just I love to get back to just the lore of the stuff that we grew up with.
Yeah.
But then also while watching those, I'm like, yeah, it'll be cool to have live action versions of like some of these stories. But I'm okay if you want to kind of remix it a little bit and give it something different, right, on the big screen. So, but like that, all credit due with James Gunn with that. The issues I may have with the film, it definitely wasn't Clark and Lois. Those are the strongest scenes in a film. Now, some people will say, well, do you need a $200 million film to do Clark and Lois? You can do that on a series, right?
Yeah,
I would take that. If Gunn wants to do like a Clark and Lois series, I'm all with that, where you may not have too many big action spectacles, but just, I'm saying,
I mean, Superman and Lois
good stuff.
Did that for what, 4 seasons? And but just like, this is Daddy Superman, you could kind of do it like a prequel to that, you know, almost before they have the babies and stuff, you know?
Yeah. So I'm just saying, like, you know, when something's hitting, I'm all with it. And so with that Superman, you said you got Man of Steel, probably the Donner. I don't know if you mean part 1 and 2. 'Cause that's kind of where I put my hierarchy of Superman films is. It's Man of Steel, like, and I can go 1A, 1B. The Donner cut Superman 2 is what has been my favorite Superman film until Man of Steel came out. And then the first Superman is just something about that original. So that's my top 3. After that, then I can start entertaining James Gunn Superman, just in my opinion. And then Superman 4 is a guilty pleasure. A lot of people don't like that film, but that The Quest of Peace is really, really good to me growing up. And then you got, I think, the bad Superman films. Superman 3, I don't think is good. Though it had Richard Pryor, I wish they would have made a better film for him being in there. But that's probably why
that
it wasn't
story
the
needs
best
to be a
film.
lot better.
That's probably why it wasn't good. Because like, let's make a Richard Pryor version of Superman film. It's like, maybe you shouldn't do that. But Superman Returns, and it's a very boring film. Let me get your take, because
I was waiting for this one. I was waiting for this one.
A recent live stream.
Crazy.
The chat gets crazy. We know this. We talk about this, but the idea came up that Superman Returns, just as far as the scene, the plane scene, and everyone knows the plane scene when we say it, or they know the bullet to the eye scene when we say it, right? Because those are probably the only two exciting parts of the film. But the plane scene was a big spectacle, right? Superman saving the plane, landing on the good old American baseball field, and it was the best stuff they did in that film. There was a thought, and I put a poll out there. Was that plane scene moment better than? Not saying a better film. I'm making it very clear. Superman Returns is not a good film to me. But I like James Gunn's Superman film over Superman Returns, but that moment, plane moment, over any moment in James Gunn's Superman. What's your thoughts with that?
I would say this. Right now, I'm gonna keep it, level, even keel. I do think that was a high moment, but I feel like that moment in that movie with Superman Returns, the reason why it lingered in our head so much is because of that. Because that was the only thing, when you think about that movie, that is it. And to not to defend Gunn at any point, but it's easy to kind of say that, but I can't agree with that. I feel like just alone in that first statement, when he's in the ice chamber trying to get healed by the sun, and then he's going to go back to fight, like that was an epic, to me. It's something that we haven't seen before, how he's utilizing the sun to heal himself. I mean, it's been done in comics. I'm actually surprised that hasn't been using that canon, that hasn't been utilized before. And then the whole fight sequence, I think you mentioned it on the stream too, the Mr. Terrific scene, that's top notch. And then to me, that first fight scene where he's fighting around town, Superman against the I forgot I guess we're calling him Bizarro in the first
Ultraman, Bizarro, whatever.
Ultraman,
whatever.
The Bravia scene where he's like fighting him, and I feel like, to me, like that was really maybe not as epic as that plane scene, but that was, the fight scene was a lot. There was a lot going on. So after seeing it 3 times, I can understand why, if you watch it on that first watch and you don't watch that film again, you're like, there's too much going on. So you can't catch the epicness of a lot of these battles.
That's fair. I think I do like the moment, because I just actually rewatched it a couple of days ago, James Gunn Superman, and the moment at the end where the kids crying for Superman, and then Guy Gardner comes down, was like, well, Superman ain't coming, but you got the upgrade. I like that moment right there. And then you got the Justice Gang, and you see Metamorpho, and that's the thing. I think, and I'm sure Gunn's going to learn from this as we kind of transition, kind of going to Man of Tomorrow, and then we'll talk about the slate for 2026. Is that I think Gunn, he has to know, because that was a great version of Metamorpho, that. We never seen it live action before, and I think Gunn nailed that. I think he nailed that. Now, we probably didn't get enough, but hopefully that means there's going to be more, to come with him. Those moments that Gunn with the Mr. Terrific, the Superman Ultraman fight, I'm still kind of. Are you saying like the moment where after the mask comes off, and then that was the fight that you thought that was the epic part? Because with him and Lex, controlling him and controlling, Bizarro, whoever he is, he's like, it was amalgamation of a lot of things.
Yeah, he was just like a mixture of all of it.
Yeah, which is fine. Like I said, that's what these comic stories are for, is that you do your own version of these characters, and it seemed like, it's kind of like, Lex, putting in commands, and at the end the mask comes off and it's just straight up brawl. Like, it was kind of more visceral. I'll say that.
Yeah.
With Gunn, it wasn't like a straight up, we talk about Man of Steel, Superman versus Zod in Smallville.
Yeah, it wasn't that.
It wasn't that, right? That fight.
Yeah.
And is it unfair to expect that? Maybe, because this is his own version. I am waiting for his, Corners of Superman to have some kind of a more epic fight. That's just my opinion, with that. Where do you stand as far as just with the the implementation of the Justice Gang? That was a nice wrinkle, I think, in the film. And we already talked about the Mr. Terrific thing, is that this film was seeding a lot of potential. I think that's what we kind of walk away from this film. It was about setting up potential.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I felt like, so I think I said it in one of our chats. I felt like this film, like, we didn't. The best way I could say it's like not so much that we didn't get the full film. It's more like the over arc of this. Like, in order for this film to succeed, I feel like it has to land in Man of Tomorrow. Like, it was a lot of buildup. Like, you got to think of like how when you watch some of these series and you have these episodes throughout the series where it's like it builds it up, and then at that finale is what we're building up to. And I think that's kind of how that James Gunn has been shooting these films, is that like what he wanted to establish with Superman was the open worldness of this DC universe.
I think he accomplished that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I feel like as fans of DC, what it made for us is like, oh, anything is possible in this universe. That we can bring in any superhero, whether it's Wildcat or you're bringing in the original JSA in here, and so on and so forth. The fact that he mentioned it almost, and people kind of make fun of me when I say this, but it's like a good example of this is kind of how the old original Incredibles film was, where they kind of throw you into there, they give you that same kind of slate where it's like there's been heroes, in this universe for so long, but the main heroes we're following now is this Incredibles family, where here it's like it's the same thing. Like, there's been heroes for decades, and all of a sudden we're here in these years that Superman came into the fold, so that's kind of,
I like that though. Yeah. I do like, because my first day seeing the Superman film, I think I had like a Wednesday screen. I think you saw like Tuesday night or something like that, and then I saw the Amazon screening here locally, and I love the title card where he's like, it's been like 300 years since Metahumans was here, or something like that. I forget that. I got to rewatch that title card, but it's like, and then it's like, boom, you're thrown into Forces of Solitude. You're thrown into the fight with Ultraman. They throw the kaiju at you. It's just like breakneck speed. I'm just like, my head was spinning. I was like, what? I'm like, man, good. Like,
it was very Star Wars-esque. They kind of just throw you into an episode.
Yeah, and I think that we never really seen that type of approach with DC. It's always been this origin story and go back to where it began. And I think that's why I think we have high regards for Man of Steel, because that's a quintessential origin of Superman. Like, it just, Diners up there, and then Zack Snyder did something just, for our times, a quintessential.
And to that point, real quick, a lot of people don't give Zack this credit, and we only really talk about Man of Steel being an origin film, but I mean, I recently just rewatched BVS. I want to say
I just watched it again yesterday.
Like 2 or 3 days ago, and even though it was short, we got an origin story for Bruce in that. Like, everyone wants to say, "Oh no, we just threw Batman in there," and no, he threw, even though it was a little flashback. Yeah, like, you saw everything. So like that's something that I haven't seen been mentioned.
And he fills in with dialogue like what this Batman is, an older Batman, but what he's been through. You got the Robin suit and things like that. So it's like, was it a fast tracked Batman origin? Yes, it was. We know Warner Brothers pushed that on Zack Snyder. As nice as Zack Snyder always says about this, he in that recent interview, which I got to definitely cover, Zack admitted, he had a Man of Steel 2 idea with Brainiac, and he wanted to do the Superman story, right? And that would have been crazy.
That would have been nuts.
2013, right? Man of Steel, and you give Zack 2 more years, let him do the Superman saga. Just let him go ahead and do Brainiac, and then separately, we see he's very capable of Batman. You could have did a separate Batman film. Now, this is in no way saying, "Oh, we shouldn't do BVS," because BVS is my favorite CBM film ever.
100%.
I've never had the time I've had in theaters with any other film than sitting there in
warehouse scene alone,
night, seeing the Batman vs Superman, the warehouse scene, everything that happened in that film, the Wonder Woman entrance, Doomsday, but all I said, just we have that hindsight where we're saying, okay, if we could go back, I would have loved to just let Zack do the Brainiac Man of Steel story, set up his older Batman. You still can do your warehouse stuff in that film. Yeah. Introduce Wonder Woman, I guess, in the next one. So Zack could have had like 3 or 4 films going right there before Justice League, right? And it just would have landed, I think, just overall. Because when the Snyder Cut came out, when it finally was released, Snyder Cut, all the haters, everyone loves the Snyder. I don't see one hater of previous Man of Steel, BVS, watch the Snyder Cut and say, I know some of these haters, some of these journalists out there, I know they hate Zack Snyder. And they admitted, no, the Snyder Cut flows. That's that's and that's what Zack was trying to give y'all, but it's I digress on that one.
I mean, to your point, to have him build, I mean, come on, it's Zack. We know he would have built up that world to a whole nother level, and then even if it just led to BVS itself, you having we have little hints of maybe not, Batman seeing Superman, but just little things he's reading a newspaper or freaking, he sees a news report or something.
I like that idea. Let's say, because again, I think we're both saying we love BVS. Again, I don't gotta keep explaining that. Y'all know I love BVS. That's my favorite CBM film ever. If we got that Man of Steel 2 with Brainiac, and then you seed in Bruce Wayne, like you said, he's kind of in the shadows a little bit. And then that's setting up the BVS. All I'm saying is that I would have loved to seen Zack Snyder Brainiac. I would have loved to have seen that because Zack would have went extreme with Brainiac eating planets and stuff. He would have went crazy.
It would have been the next level of Matrix, man. I honestly think he would have took it that way. With the machines, the machine empire over in Matrix. I think he would have done something like that with Brainiac. I honestly think so.
So I do have to ask before we begin. We want to touch on the 2026 slate because we, again, as DC fans, any live action DC you're giving me, you even got some animated films coming out this year as well too. I want to see what you got. And if I don't like it, I'll definitely voice it. But I'm never going to be like, oh, a DC film's coming out. Nah, boycott. No. I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? I made that clear.
There's no point.
But I do have to ask your opinion with this, that we're talking about Zack's Brainiac. Now, James Gunn, he's already announced Brainiac's in Man of Tomorrow. What we talk about how Zack will probably attack. I think Zack, it probably been close to that Krypton series, what we saw with Brainiac, right? Very just
menace. He was a menace in that.
Yeah, just very menacing Brainiac. I wonder with James Gunn, and my caveat in all this is that James Gunn, I think, is a great writer. As much as I make fun of him, I know he can write good characters. Bringing in Brainiac, I do wonder how this is going to fit in. Well, I know how it's going to fit into his world, right? Yeah. But what is that Brainiac? That's the point I'm trying to get to. Is what do you think? I'm not thinking menacing. I'm thinking very calculating. Some people say Guardians 3, that villain in Guardians 3, it's kind of like an angle but this is Brainiac, right? What's your thoughts? Because again, this is all speculation. We don't know.
Yeah.
But James Gunn's style, right? That's what we're kind of talking about.
So that I think you hit it on the nose. It's the whole James Gunn style, right? So my only hope before I get on what I think he's gonna do is that we don't get a CW version. And what I mean by that is story plot version of how Brainiac, falls in love with Supergirl in the Supergirl show.
Mhm.
And I hope we get an actual original Brainiac. Maybe not as menacing, maybe like you're saying, more calculated, but don't touch Legion of Superheroes. Because I for some reason, something in the back of my mind is telling me that he's gonna go. The reason why he didn't get the rollout reveal that we wanted, when you reveal you're gonna have a guy like Brainiac in your film, is because we may not be getting the Brainiac that we think. Something is telling me that we may get a Brainiac from the future that is coming back, and he's actually a good Brainiac, where he's still fighting his ancestors. And knowing how Gunn is, I can see him doing pulling the rug out from under us, doing something like that. But I hope we get at least some inkling of the original, like the bad Brainiac. Like, not everybody has to be an anti-hero. Like, just give me the villain, and then we'll make our way to that, because I do like that character as well. I think he's a big part of the Legion of Superheroes in the future. That kind of has that redeem story, but give me something to redeem.
I don't want that. Yeah, like you said, I don't want the redemption, because he's kind of already redeeming Lex. You know what I mean? In a sense. Yeah. So I want this big bad Brainiac. Like that's what I want with this film. And I think maybe we have a good chance of that, only because, like we said, Lex is kind of getting redeemed after he did some terrible stuff in Superman 2025. So is that what you're saying? That's what you hope it is, or what are you expecting the Brainiac to
be? I'm hoping for the big bad Brainiac. Yeah. I'm hoping for that. And I mean, my favorite depiction of Brainiac ever is in JLU, the animated series, the Justice League Unlimited, where that part where Brainiac has been kind of destroyed at one point, and then Lex is taking over. And the next thing we find out that he's been puppeteering Lex this whole time.
That's a great version. I like also too. I still got to kind of. I've been busy lately. I had to catch up with my Absolute comics.
Oh, okay,
recently.
Yeah.
But this Absolute Brainiac is yes. Like that feels like what Zack Snyder would have done.
Right. That's why I didn't even mention that. I don't want Gunn to touch that. Please don't touch that.
It's just very Zack Snydery. That whole Absolute DC stuff is just. It's pretty much the Snyderverse in
Paramount,
comics.
Please hear our prayers.
Like I'm just saying, it's like and this is the thing with DC, and this is what I was trying to tell people before James Gunn Superman, is that there's different versions of all these characters. We can have all these different versions. Yeah. I don't need Gunn to fail to get a Reeves Batman, or a James a Zack Snyder take on it, or if someone wants to come in and do an Absolute DC version. Like, that's what DC Universe is all these different versions. You rock with what you want to rock with. If they're making money, then they will continue. And just to kind of close that up with James Gunn Superman, is that, hey, the profits are what they are. They updated the box office, which is very that was very weird. We can't beat the allegations when y'all do this, DC, but now it's 624 million. I've covered extensively how the advertising tie-ins helped that film to make a profit. That's why you got Man of Tomorrow about to start shooting next month. And so that stands where it stands. James Gunn Superman. It's a kind of an enigma type film. I don't think it's the greatest Superman film ever, but it's definitely not the worst. I'm not going to go all far with this and be like, DOA. It's like, no, like it made money. We'll see what he does with Man of Tomorrow, and I'm sure Carlos will be here to talk about that when 2027 is going to be. This is going to be a very interesting year of DC. But so we'll see. We'll see how this year shakes out. I mean, it is going to be more conversation. Once it gets to the end of this year, you got the Paramount deal. They're buying Warner Brothers, meaning they will own DC. Yeah. what would that mean for Gunn and stuff? That would be a conversation we'll kind of visit in the future, because that deal has to close, and there's a lot of moving parts with that. But Gunn's DC, if this is kind of like if for some reason it ends next year, right? James Gunn, he launched his version, his DC world, and I think it's unique enough, especially by the time Clayface comes out. I think he's going to at least have where it's a period of time where it was just a chance to see a living, breathing, live action DC world that we've never seen in the big screen ever.
Yeah.
And we kind of saw like TV side of the CW Arrowverse. You kind of had the DC world. We never saw it in the big screen. Right.
Yeah.
We know Zack Snyder was getting to that point, to do the whole, Justice League and of the world type thing. So I that's the credit, the legacy of James Gunn's DC. Again, I'm not trying to bury it already. We'll see what happens, but he still has Man of Tomorrow, to come out. But I'm going to give him that credit of launching a ready-made DC world. Like you said, like Star Wars, just jump into the world and we get a few stories out of it. I wouldn't be mad at that if he can make Man of Tomorrow, and maybe it's all about trilogies. So maybe he can do like a third film after that to kind of close the Superman saga.
Yeah, just have everyone in that third film just like wrap it all up in a ball.
Yeah,
everybody from the universe. I think something like that would work. I mean, one thing I will say when it comes to Gunn is that I kind of wish that he kept the film like as an event thing where you had everybody show up and then kind of like break it off into series to kind of elaborate a lot. I think that's something where he kind of like missed the mark. I think with his world building, since it was already established, I think that would have helped out a lot. I think with everyone, like trying to flesh out certain characters and stuff like that. But this is where we're at now. So yeah, hopefully it does, it does what it needs to do.
Yeah.
As a DC fan.
Yeah. And just again, just the realistic take on this. I mean, you got this new merger coming in. There's going to be some changes, across the board. I feel, does it mean Gunn's automatically gone? No, that's not what we're saying. That's not what I'm trying to imply, but it is a level of uncertainty. Yeah. And that's just a real thing. And so I just feel, you want to look at, just kind of what you got with this Gunn DCU, and once there's kind of like an update about that, we'll see. We'll see what more can be done. But we know Man of Tomorrow's coming. He's going to start shooting that next month. And I'm definitely going to be covering that, like, the behind the scenes Superman stuff. That was a wild summer covering that film. Like, it was really fun because it showed me that, there's a wide range of DC fans, right? I mean, the core of my channels and platforms obviously is Snyderverse. But I grew up with watching Tim Burton, watching the old Donner films, Nolan, Schumacher, much love to Schumacher. And then you got Zack. So it's like any iterations of these DC characters, I'm going to give it a shot. And that's the same thing, same shot I gave James Gunn. Hey, I just hope he does his best. This Man of Tomorrow. If that's it right there, I hope he knocks it out of the park.
No, yeah, man. I agree, man. At the end of the day, as DC fans, like, I just want DC to succeed. And I feel like as of now, and I'll be the first to say, at first, when I first saw the deal and stuff, I was pulling for Netflix for a little bit, but then I just started seeing how they were moving and stuff like that, and I'm like, I'm just ready for DC to make a decision and move forward. Now that we're in this state where it's finally Paramount, I know things have to get finalized and all that stuff, but there's a direction now. We know where we're going. We're moving on, and the fact that they said that they want like 30 films released a year, like, bring it. Give me all the DC, man. We need this. All right, Marvel, go do your Endgame stuff and finish off with that, and let DC eat, please. Let DC eat right now.
This is a chance for that, and like you said with the last point with the Netflix thing is that, hey, that was a better chance for Gunn to kind of breathe a little bit and do more of his saga going forward. So that's a real thing.